is education. And thankfully, you've mentioned a lot of the things that I was going to talk about anyway. So it's really good to have such an opening. You know, for me, educating gives empowerment. When you know what is out there, you're empowered. And that's one of the reasons why I've come here today to talk to us as women. I acknowledge the men, but the thing is, substance abuse. That's what I want to talk about. When you hear substance abuse, what do you think? What is that image in your head? Do you think it's men? Do you think that is some, boys round the corner on the streets, just in the park or something like that? Do you think about, some crime? Erase that from your mind completely, because I used to be like that. I used to work and look at things like, oh, it's just some criminalities around the corner. But then in my work, I've found out that a lot of women are actually abusing substances, even at home. So I need us to start thinking about being aware of our vulnerability as women, how easily it is to go down that path. It's very easy. And interestingly, a lot of the reasons why women do that is trauma coming from, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, within and outside the domestic relationships. So today, I just wanted to look at us and look at, for too long, we've overlooked that woman who is taking a medication. And the medication is only to keep her going. That medication that you were so familiar with, medications, doctors like them, complain about anything. Before they even give you the time, they're recommending something for you, prescribing you to go take something. So don't forget that woman who is abusing substances because she's particularly vulnerable. For too long, our understanding of substance abuse has been gender blind. And that is why I said education is at the core of my message. Because a lot of agencies, the services we have, they are targeted at helping you when the consequences start to happen. They don't stop. It's not at the entrance level. And that is why my message is about stopping, preventing substance abuse before the initiation at all. And this, cuts across the genders. If I'm being honest, it's just that today the message is to women in particular. I want us to note that women just don't use drugs. It's not about using drugs differently. It is about the consequences they face, and that those consequences are different for them. There are so many things they need to look at. Let me talk to you today about the telescoping effect. Science does not negotiate with you. Tests and results must be respected. In 1989, a research led by a guy called Nick Piazza and his colleagues was published. They talked about a telescoping effect. This research concluded that women often progress from initial use to dependence more quickly than men, even though they observed that women don't go into drugs at early age like men. So that in itself is an indication of the reasons why they go. Why would a woman who has lived a life all well from the beginning, becomes a mother, just decide to go into drugs? There is something there. But what they found out is that this woman, the symptoms of dependence, it comes more rapidly for them. In other words, the gap between the initial state of the use of drugs and the chronic problems is shorter for women. This compressed timeline is what that telescoping metaphor is all about. And since that initial study, the telescoping effect has become an aspect of gender responsive research. Although the initial research was on women taking alcohol, over time they have found out that it's the same thing for other stimulants like opioids and cannabis. Women, mothers, don't be surprised, are doing this now. And let's be honest with ourselves. Women often face more severe impairments and experience faster progression of health issues when they decide to start taking drugs. Whether it's organ damage or cognitive decline, there are metabolic and hormonal differences between men and women. We can negotiate that. So when our prevention messages overlook these biological realities, we fail in our duty to provide women with the tools they need to, to prevent the initial stage. There is this profound double-edged stigma here. Imagine a mother struggling with substance addiction. She wants to stop. She needs help, like every other addiction, but from those that genuinely care about her and are close enough to offer support, what is she likely to get? Some pity, some advice to seek rehabilitation. And like Ashley said, how much of it do you actually get? How much of professional help do you get? However, don't forget this woman, this mother, will be left alone to face some moral condemnation by some of us that are women. She's going to face the condemnation of failing society's standard. That woman also has the potential of losing her beloved children to social services when they find out. So we need to move from a culture that contributes to where, admitting a problem leaves you worse off than hiding it. And that's why a lot of women are in the shadows when this goes on. The root of most of this thing is trauma. Like I mentioned, the impact of drug addiction cannot be discussed without addressing trauma. An overwhelming proportion of women that are seeking treatment report using drug disorder as from experience that they face. In this context, don't look at drug abuse as a bad girl thing. No, it's not. It's not a bad girl thing. It's not that image of a teenager running away from home and has mixed with the wrong crowd. No, it is not. It is not about those women that we think they are, how we like to call them politically, the socially and economically deprived neighborhood. No. Some of these women are women that they seem to have it all together. You think everything is together, and you look at them from afar, you're wishing you're like them. I remember talking to someone one day, I said, "Oh, you look so good," as a neighbor. "Oh, you look so good," and everything, all her nails are always well done. And then she looked at me and said, "But you don't know. You don't know." And that's the truth. We can all look okay, but you don't know the story behind. You don't know what I'm going through on my kitchen table. So my message is that let's begin to empower women with the knowledge of the pull factors, seeking help. The most significant pull factor, like I've just mentioned, is the trauma trauma from a physical, emotional, and sexual abuse sometimes. And these things happen within and outside the domestic setting, even from postnatal experiences to anxiety, insomnia, and other forms of, domestic issues. Am I suggesting that substance abuse is a lifestyle? Is that lifestyle is not a cause? No. Sometimes lifestyle is. Well, remember when Ashley was talking about taking responsibility? Truth is, I believe in taking responsibility, but we must also realize that willpower is not the same. Some of us are stronger, some of us are not. So we need to help ourselves, we need to support ourselves. Sadly, sometimes, I'm not trying to call out men within this domestic setting. The male peer pressure itself can drive women into substance abuse.
Yeah.
There have been situations, for example, where their new romantic partner seeking to maintain pleasure have been reported to be drugging women because it makes them feel better. Coercive control, obviously, is another reason, just to gain dominance over the woman. Yeah, situations arise. Oh, stop. I want you to take care of the children, be at home. I'll give you everything you need. I'll provide. 2-3 months down the line, the money stops coming. By which time the woman is already being abused and feeling so little. And these things happen. Thankfully, the UK government and UN now recognize that weaponizing addiction is merely a drug offense. It is a crime of coercive control, they say. Yeah. As UN Women suggests, it says we are facing a shadow pandemic. It is not just about the chemistry of the drug, it's about the chemistry of power. When your abuser holds a syringe, they aren't just providing a substance, they are holding the keys to our freedom. In the eyes of the law, that woman unfortunately is a criminal. In the eyes of our abuser, she's an asset. But in reality, she's a hostage. That hostage situation, a lot of people, the relationship is a hostage situation. Therefore, if our prevention strategies focus solely on say no to drugs and do not address the reasons why women turn to drugs, we are merely putting plaster on deep wounds. Gender responsive prevention needs to be broader. It must address specific causes that leave women particularly vulnerable. We must adopt a robust trauma-informed approach when a more fitting question would perhaps be, what happened to you? And not what is wrong with you. Additionally, women are generally and historically more likely to be prescribed psychoactive medications, like I mentioned, for anxiety, painkillers, and not forgetting the inroad into drug abuse through stress management strategies that, sometimes we want to self-manage the situation to address exhaustion that is caused by the balance of, needing to juggle multiple chores, things. You have your job, you have your career, you have the children. And apart from her personal circumstances, the woman should know she faces vulnerabilities and dangers associated with crime. Actually, that's one of the things that led me into this study. The crime, the issue of international crime and drug use and human trafficking, how women are used as cartel assets in this And you could look at such a woman on the street and think, oh, she wanted the champagne lifestyle. No, it's not all the time. It's not always true. There have been situations that have just been used as nothing but asset. Like I said, hostage situation. They are held hostage and are made to do this. And with peanuts, they make them look good outside. And then you and I can think, oh, well, she's hanging out with criminals. It's not always so. So what is the way forward? How do you and I alter the narrative? We need gender-specific programming. We need more easily accessible, safe places for women to discuss the distinct pressures faced by modern women. As modern women, even you see, crime has gone to another level. It's not like the way it used to be. There are things that are specific to us. The domestic violence, reproductive health issues, and others. For example, safe places should be able to cater for women from ethnic minority. I think someone was talking about how in some culture, a man, yeah, and then that man is seen as, oh yeah, you can't just touch them. It's okay to be like that. So we need specific safe places for those kind of women. We also need some wraparound support, preventative measures for women. It must include education, awareness, empowerment around, economics, the economic advocacy, the protection. Just as an example, a woman who is in an abusive relationship, she's not likely to be financially independent. No, not most times. And then let's change the language shift. We need to dismantle the language of shame when we notice this. Our messaging should steer clear of moralizing warnings across all communities and any aspect of this issue. We must focus on empowerment through education to prevent the initiation into substance abuse. In conclusion, the effects of drugs on women are complex. They're very complex issues. It involves the biological, economic, and deeply embedded social expectations. By recognizing these distinct pressures, we not only support women, but also their families and our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Has anybody got any questions? Yeah?
Thank you. Hi.
First of all, thank you very much for your talk.
Thank you.
I think it's really important in terms of more safe spaces to talk about substance abuse, especially in women, because this is not something new. Like, obviously, there are pressures in the newer world